Today, we're going to go over some basic underwriting, blood thinner maintenance, dual use medication. I'm even going to get into true Social Security billing a little bit. I'll try to make it quick with that because I know most of you guys know. I did ask a couple of agents, if they would maybe just share kind of like what they do for underwriting and how they do that. Before we get into that, I do want to go over a couple of things. And of course, during this call, we want you to participate. So please just raise your hand if you've got a comment, something to add, or a question. I love it when you guys ask questions. That's how we're going to help, especially the newer agents. Jason Meese, are you there, my friend?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Excellent, buddy. Thank you so much for doing this because it's important for everybody to share this information. So I do an old school variation of underwriting. You guys all have the technology, you have the insurance toolkits. I don't use that. I use the cheat sheet that I give every agent when they're new on the platform. So everybody has, I sent everybody an email. It's got a couple of presentations in it. It's got a bunch of stuff, sales stuff in there. And it also has a cheat sheet with the 5 best carriers and how they view health conditions. So that's how I do my underwriting. I base it off that. So what I wanted to know if any of you guys do that same thing or how you use that cheat sheet. But Jason, if you could give me an idea of what you do for underwriting for your clients, please.
Yeah, I follow the medication questions pretty closely. And then when I'm using the quote tool, I follow those, even the follow-up questions, if somebody's got complications with diabetes when they take their medicine, and I stick with that. I think one important thing, and I know you've mentioned it before and it's on the sheet, but about things like nitroglycerin and things like Narcan or naloxone, those are, if you can kind of start to learn these prescriptions that really cause underwriting problems, that are prescriptions that people literally they maybe never took it or they forgot they even have it. And so a lot of these people, they really think that, well, I don't take that. And so they think it's fine, or, oh yeah, well, I got that prescription 5 years ago, but yeah, I don't need it. And so they don't even, it's not even a talking point for them. So I feel like I've run into it, I guess more so in the last couple of weeks, actually, that somebody's on one of these medications that the insurance companies feel is a pretty severe medication. And they're surprised when we find out, oh, well, do you have this prescription? Oh, well, yeah, but I don't take it,
Right. They'll do that. So are you using the medical question page that I sent out to you? Is that what you're
Yes.
using?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
great.
Exactly.
So that's smart. And so now with the underwriting, are you using the insurance toolkits to look up the medication, or are you just maybe looking the medication up for the carrier's cheat sheet, the carrier list?
I use the tool, the quote tool,
Okay.
and pull them all up that way.
All right, excellent. Let me ask one last question. Is there any tips that you can give to the new agents on the platform? I know you've been doing this for several months now.
Yeah, I think I'm finding I'm starting to ask more about the medications even that aren't covered on that medical question sheet. And so I guess I would recommend to do that, especially, and I started doing it because I had a couple declines or a couple modifieds, and the people really were sort of surprised that it happened. And so I started kind of digging a little more, which, Doug, I know you do, digging into all their medication. So I started doing that more, just to get them to, like you say, list all of their medications. And then I kind of make sure that I'm asking them, oh, how about the last 5 years? Is there anything you're not taking anymore? That kind of thing. So we can make sure that that's in there, because especially I've had a couple that have been savvy where, they've been shopping around and they know about a modified plan or a graded plan and a wait period. And as soon as you tell them, oh, well, it looks like you probably qualify for first day coverage, they're in. And as soon as you say, oh, what's going on? We must have missed something. They, not everybody, but a lot of them, yeah, I'm not doing a wait.
Jason, it's funny that you mentioned that, because towards the end of the call, I am going to speak a little bit about My recommendations, what I do when the client is offered graded, whether I tell them what I tell them, or they're offered modified, or if there's a 2-year wait or what have you, how I deal with it. So I am going to get into that. Maybe ask you guys to share into that later. But that's good stuff, Jason. Thank you. I did ask Brandon, why don't you unmute yourself, buddy, and kind of jump in and talk about a little bit. I know we spoke a little bit about how you use prosperity as a lead, but maybe share about what your underwriting process is about.
So for me, it's all about efficiency. I really try to keep it short and condensed and only ask the questions that are necessary. Since we're working with these clients on the phone, if we make the process too labor intensive, it will start to scare them, especially just like with what Jason said. They know, they've been shopping, they've been looking around. So some people are a little hesitant to tell us about some of their health issues. I understand and anticipate that. I start with the health issues, I focus on the health issues, and then I branch off into a couple of questions that are in response to the health questions. So my health questionnaire, if the person is healthy, takes approximately 15 seconds. I'll ask about some of the basics, such as diabetes. If they say yes to diabetes, we immediately jump into, are you taking insulin or a pill like metformin? If they say yes to the diabetes, we also ask, have you ever had to take a pill called gabapentin or been told that you have diabetic neuropathy? Very sharp, to the point questions, because we don't need to ask about diabetic neuropathy if they don't have diabetes. So try to limit what I ask so that we can hone in. Then after that, I'll go into the major knockoffs. So we've got stroke, seizure, cancer, heart attack. If you've had any of those within, and don't ask them if you have any history, because then you start getting into their family history or how their father passed away 30 years ago because he had a stroke. So we asked, in the last 2 years, have you had problems with stroke, seizure, cancer, or heart attack? If they say yes to that, my to the point questions there, obviously, when? When was the last occurrence? Okay, because some people, just the other day, I was on the phone with a client. We ended up writing a level policy, and she said that she had a lot of history of strokes, that she had like 8 strokes. And I go, oh, okay, so you've had a lot of history with strokes. Even though I had just asked her if you had history in the last 2 years, I asked her when the last occurrence was, and it was about 10 years ago. So we ended up being in a level policy. Then I go from the serious, definitely going GI, to potentially graded or modified. I ask the questions about heart conditions, very broad about that. Do you have any history of heart conditions, kidney or liver disease, or COPD? And by leaving it open with heart condition, instead of specifying with AFib or CHF or anything like that, angina, I try to keep it kind of simple, right? By saying heart condition, it's narrowed down. And if most times they don't even know what their heart condition is called, they just know they have a heart condition. Then we start to ask, okay, is it, have you ever heard the phrase congestive heart failure or AFib or maybe a regular heart rhythm? Kind of open it up just a little bit. To narrow yourself down at that point. Also, I really try to keep it short and sweet, because the longer we get into it, yes, it's a great opportunity to build rapport, but then you're building rapport for the next 30, 45 minutes because you start losing the point. We start going off track to a place we may not necessarily need to be. Also, by keeping this short, we're focusing more on the positives versus the negatives. Because whenever we go into underwriting, we start asking those health questions and we start going too far into the negative. Again, we get lost in the weeds. 30, 45 minutes later, they're like, oh, wait, this costs money? I'm not sure if I can do that. So try to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. And then always try to get the underwriting done and approved on your first call. And I know you're sitting there going, wait, underwriting on the first call, what? If it goes to underwriting, it's going to take me 3 to 5 days to hear back from an underwriter, especially if I'm submitting it to certain carriers that I won't discuss. So I lead with Prosperity. Prosperity is my leading carrier. They're very good because they don't decrease their commissions whenever you go to graded or modified, so that helps. But if you're doing the e-apps that I teach everybody to do, stay on those e-apps with Prosperity, because the Prosperity e-app, whenever you've signed your HIPAA disclosure, you answer your health questions, Prosperity will tell you if they're approved for level on the spot. And you're probably sitting there saying, yeah, everybody does that. But if they're declined or they're counter-offered, Prosperity will tell you, they give you in 2 locations. The first location is they'll ask for additional questions. And then the second location is if they're not approved as applied for, it will tell you why. And this is really useful because I've had conversations with clients. Just this last Monday, I was talking with a client and he wasn't approved for a level policy because of a specific medication. And I started probing and asking questions about that medication, and it was for tremors, but it was saying that was for an anxiety disorder. It was a multiple use medication. So at that point, I said, we're graded here, or I can switch right over to Royal Neighbors and I can go level immediate coverage using a cheat sheet, not even having to use an underwriting tool, because I know Royal Neighbors accepts individuals with major depressive disorder or anxiety. They don't have a lot of knockoffs for psychological issues. So we went over to Royal Neighbors, level policy, day 1 coverage. But I made sure I did that right away, immediately. I opened up the conversation with the client and I said, okay, client, here's the issue. We're approved for a policy, but it's not the perfect policy for you. So the good news is I have coverage for you here, but the better news is I have better coverage for you over here. It might be about $2 more per month, but it's day 1 coverage. So let's switch gears a little bit. Let's get you the best coverage instead of the right now coverage. It's just going to take another couple of minutes. Of course, I kept all of the information and then I just put it into the other application with the client's consent. And then we were good with the level day 1 policy through Royal Neighbors. Don't wait on underwriting. Don't allow them to come back and decline your policy for you a week after your conversation. Try to get it done on the spot, first call, every time. Imagine that with every client, you only have 1 chance and that you will not be able to get a hold of them on the phone ever again. That we have 1 chance. That is the biggest thing about my underwriting. Short, to the point, only making sure that I ask the pertinent questions, and then I only have 1 chance to talk to this client. So I'm going to lead with a company like Prosperity so I can utilize that chance.
Excellent. Excellent. Very good stuff, Brandon. So guys, a couple of tips, a couple of major takeaways. First, these are those, a bunch of you guys are starting this week and next week. Okay. So these are 1 call closes. 1. The second tip, you send up your application to a carrier, it goes to underwriting and they don't give you an answer right then and there. Switch gears and go with another carrier. If you need help at that point, you can always reach out to Brandon or myself. So the idea is you don't, like Brandon says, you don't want to wait. You don't want to delay this. You want to know when you hang up the phone with the client that you've gotten them approved with something. That is super huge, super key. Jason, go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, thank you. I was just going to add to that, American Amicable, they will tell you through their chat which question should have been marked yes rather than no based on prescription. And so if you're quick, you can keep the client on the line and figure out exactly which question, because, you know, half the time they don't know. And then you say, oh, well, it's, you know, I'm getting back a word from American Amicable that, you know, we should have said yes based on your prescription to this, 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 and this. Does any of that sound familiar? Oh, well, yeah.
Excellent. I love that. Yeah, that's right. American Amicable does have that chat tool, but I didn't realize they would do that. So that's cute. Now we've got two carriers that'll actually tell us, at least give us some information. Like Jason said, when the client is offered something other than applied for or not being able to be approved at all, at least if you do the chat and ask about it, they'll tell you which question it was that is questionable, where the issue came from. So they may not tell you the medication like what Prosperity will do, but at least they'll kind of give you that question and guide you. Excellent. I know I did ask John Peters, if you're on, I think I see you there on the phone. If you're on the call, there you are.
Hey, Doug.
Hey, buddy, you got anything to add about what you do, your process? Fire away, please.
I only heard the last couple people, Brandon and Jason. So I was at the doctor's office with my son, but so I'm not sure exactly what everybody else said or where we are in this process. But when it comes to underwriting, it's a little bit of a balancing act, especially as you're writing more business, because you got to be conscious of what carriers your persistency is with. So sometimes I'll take healthy business and put it with a carrier that I want to make sure, like if I just had somebody lapse with Royal Neighbors, I'll place that business with Royal Neighbors just so I can keep some, healthy business on the books. But, like if they have diabetes, they're taking gabapentin, Royal Neighbors is always a carrier that I'm using, a fair amount. Plus, their new application process is very, very simple, where you can just send them a text message with a link. They'll click on that link and it takes them to the app. So that's pretty nice. I use Transamerica probably a little more than I would like to. I don't love using them, but sometimes you have to, especially if they just have like COPD and not too many other issues. I'll place them with Trans. Forrester's rates are really, really good. I don't place a ton of business with Forresters, but there's times though when they're diabetic, I'll use Forresters there also. So I'm not sure what else to add or what everybody else said, but
that's good stuff. No,
and also the other magic question is determining their form of payment before you get down that rabbit hole, because the last thing you want to do is give them a quote, complete an application, and you get to the payment portion and they tell you they're going to use a card, not a checking account. So I always try and determine that before I give them a carrier. But I've done that when I first started. I'll never do it again. Something you learn once.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's important not to go ahead and sell them Royal Neighbors when Royal Neighbors won't take Direct Express, for example. So
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Fire away. What's going on?
I was saying, with the high blood pressure, how do you determine it's only high blood pressure, it's only cholesterol, and it's not, heart problems?
Well, by looking into me, you got to look into the medications and by asking the
Yeah,
right
but
questions.
a lot of people have the same type of medications. I mean, even with the gabapentin, is that always for nerve damage, or if they have diabetes, or it can be used for pain medication. So that's my question.
Right, and it does. Gabapentin gets used for, it can prevent seizures, neuropathy. Some people even use it just for like restless leg syndrome, which is mild neuropathy. The key is to ask the right questions. And look, with high blood pressure, here's what you'll learn. And this is a good example. Like if a client's taking 4 high blood pressure pills, they don't have high blood pressure. They got high blood pressure and some other stuff going on with their heart. It's all related. So at some point, once you do this a little bit, it gets easier for everybody. Your typical blood pressure person with high blood pressure maybe takes 2 medications.
Hey, Doug, can I chime in real quick?
Please.
Yeah, so with the high blood pressure, if you ask the client what the milligram is on all the high blood pressure medication, if they total over 80 milligram per day that they're taking, then it's congestive heart failure. So it's an easy way to ask them, like, you may be on 3 medications, but they're all on, 0.5, 0.1, or 5 milligram, 10 milligram. But once they get over 80, that's when it's definitely heart disease, congestive heart failure. So it's an easy way.
That's gold. That is huge. Thank you, Chris. Very, very good stuff. Excellent. Guys, anybody else? Any other questions before we go? All right. So excellent, guys. Thank you for sharing. So give me a second. Let me switch gears here on my screens real quick. So I want to do a little screen share, a couple of them actually. So the first thing I'm showing you here is the cheat sheet that everybody should have. You guys should all have this. It's been sent out to everybody who at least set up the funnels with Brandon. So you guys should all have this, really. Everybody on this call should. And this is kind of what I do. This is what I was saying. I don't even use insurance toolkits. I use this cheat sheet. And then what I do is I use the medication list that the carriers have. So if I'm leading with American Amicable, I want to see how they're going to view Corec, for example. So I just kind of wanted to show that to you. Let me move along real quick here and share something else with you. All right, here we go. Give me a second. Let's go into, there we go. So guys, and those of you, we've got a bunch of new agents starting this week. So please, 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 once you make your first couple of presentations, shoot me an email, a text. Hey, Doug, can you listen to one of my recordings, please? Yes, the feedback is what's going to really help you to get off to a good start. And for those of you who are really new on the call, we do have the training on my site. Give me 1 second. I don't know if this is blocking. Hopefully you guys can all see this. So you just basically hover, once you log in, you hover over training, and you're going to see telesales training. You're going to see 4 videos in there. It's like 1 hour and 15 minutes of everything you need to get started. And I'm bringing this up because I know a bunch of you guys are getting ready to start next week. So you've got that, and then you've got all the training calls. So once I record, today's training call is being recorded. As long as I remember to record them, generally I put them up on the website a couple hours after the call ends. So I just thought it would be important to share that with you guys. All right. Okay, and I know we've got at least one agent that's done the contracting that for some reason has not spoken with Brandon about getting the funnel set up. So please do that, guys. If you haven't spoken with Brandon about this, you need to get this process started sooner than later. We're heading into the holidays. We're going to be losing weeks that we're not going to be able to work just because of the holidays. So, we want to make sure everybody is prepared and good to go. Another thing for the new agents, call the carriers a few days, maybe a week after you set up your contracts. You should be calling every single carrier. And if you don't have the phone numbers, I can send you a text or an email that has a list of all the carriers that I've got. So FYI, just the idea is really when you start, you want to make sure you have, to me, you want to have your main carrier, and a guaranteed issue carrier, and definitely a carrier that takes direct express and debit cards. To me, that's super, super gold. Give me a second. Okay. Sorry, guys, I did it wrong. Very important. So true Social Security billing. All the primary carriers do it, and this is the list. This is more Security National Life should never be a primary carrier. Neither should Transamerica or Trinity Family Benefits. But you can lead with any of the other carriers if you do this right. And so we've got an event coming up, and this is super, super important. So I want you guys to look at, if you look at December, so notice the square here around the 2nd. Now, if you go back to November, the square is around the 3rd. October, that little square is about around the 3rd. So by using this schedule of Social Security benefits, this shows you exactly when everyone gets their money. Everyone on Social Security, everyone on disability, everyone on veterans benefits, which is basically the same. So it shows what day of the month they all get their monies based on their date of birth. This is very important because what true Social Security billing means is when you use this, and you have this list of carriers to your left that are going to allow it, when you use true Social Security billing, these carriers will draft the payment from your client on the same day that they actually get paid. So this is what I was getting at. So if you'll notice on December here, you've got this event happening. I call it an event because the 3rd is falling on a weekend. So when the 3rd or the day the client receives their Social Security benefits falls on a holiday or a weekend, it is super important that we draft it correctly. So all these carriers, if you're using Social Security benefits, Social Security, true Social Security billing, excuse me, and your client has a birthday on the 3rd, not a birthday, their draft day, the day they receive the Social Security benefits is on the 3rd, they're actually going to get paid the day before in December. So these carriers will draft it if you pick the Social Security billing option. If you don't, they're going to wait until Monday to draft it. You're going to have insufficient funds. You're going to have problems. And unfortunately, these people are so poor that a lot of them, when they get their money on Friday, they're going to pull it all out of their checking account, or most of it. And if they have a Direct Express card or one of those refillable bank card type of things, then they're going to take every penny out. And so now what's going to happen is the carrier will go to draft the payment on the 5th, a couple of days later, and there won't be any money. So always use true Social Security billing, guys. You're the professional. Don't ask the client, when do you want me to set up the bank draft? You never do that. You let them know, hey, I got great news, Janet. We're going to set the bank draft. We're not going to take a payment today. It's all good. We're going to set it up for later. What day do you receive your Social Security benefits? Okay, on the 3rd, excellent. So what they'll do is they will draft the payment after the 3rd of each month. That way we know that the money's there and you don't even have to think about it. And you can even explain how the carrier follows this calendar and how it works so that they don't even have to worry about, they'll never get an overdraft fee. It's impossible. Blood thinner maintenance, guys. Real quick, I just wanted to touch, these are the main blood thinners that you're going to run into that we all see. And what blood thinner maintenance is when these clients have an event like a heart attack, a stroke, it could even be blood clotting. There's a couple other things that it could be, but it's usually a heart attack or stroke. And then the doctor puts them on these blood thinners. After the clients have been taking the blood thinners for 2 years, Transamerica, Royal Neighbors, and Security National Life, for example, these are the 3 main carriers that do this. After the event was over 2 years ago, they're not going to consider this as a treatment. They're going to consider this blood thinner as a maintenance medication. And what that means is, on the question that asks, has the client been treated for a heart attack or stroke in the past 2 years? You can actually write no, because it's not treatment. It's considered blood thinner after the client has been taking the blood thinner for 2 years. Now, American Amicable, they do the same, but 3 years. So I don't want to make it complicated. I'm not going to get into this too much, but this is important. And I do want to talk a little bit about dual use medication. So we talk about that. Carvedilol is a big one. Carvedilol is used for high blood pressure. You know what the thing about it's kind of it's a heavy duty medication. So it can be used for high blood pressure, but generally if a client is taking carvedilol, they've got some heart condition. They have got something going on that's pretty strong. So keep that in mind. Now I'm going to give you another example. So this I think is pretty interesting. The Compro, I can't even pronounce the regular name, prochlorperazine. This can treat nausea, but it can also treat psychosis. So that's pretty heavy. So like a carrier, and this is like what Brandon said he does, he uses Prosperity. So if he sends the application up to Prosperity and it says, it could come back and say, your client is been prescribed Compro, chlorperazine. Have they ever been diagnosed for schizophrenia or psychosis? You answer no, and they're going to treat it as, oh, it's just for nausea. That's what dual medication use is. And I think that's very, very important, guys. So here's a good question. And I get this from pretty much every agent at one point asks this. When the client's just taking a big bunch of medications and you're sure you're not going to be able to get them, you may not be able to even get them qualified for, let's say, a graded or a modified product. Should you just go ahead and apply for guaranteed issue? My answer is no, because I know that American Amicable is not going to do the full underwriting if you apply for their return of premium / modified product. So I know they're not going to do the same background if you're going for level or graded. So to me, I would rather just apply for American Amicable. Why? No, this is the main reason. Honestly, there's a couple of reasons. One reason, your commission level is going to be higher. But the main reason, it comes down to American Amicable doing true Social Security billing. Great Western does not do that. AIG does not do that. Gerber does not do true Social Security billing. So what that means is, even if your client is paying a lot more, let's say they're paying 25% more for the American Amicable than what you could have given them with Gerber, American Amicable will keep them on the books better. And now you actually did help your client. I want you to think about it. To me, it's important. You've got to weigh this. What's more important? I give the client the cheapest option, or that they actually keep the insurance so it's there when they die? To me, it's a no-brainer. I'd rather charge them twice the price and put them with a carrier who's actually going to keep them on the books. So that's why it's super, super, super important. Not to just go ahead and fire away. You prep your client, let them know, say, well, Mrs. Client, I've got a good carrier. I'm pretty sure they're going to take you, but don't worry. If this fails, if for some reason it doesn't work out, I've got a bunch of carriers. I've already got one that I can switch gears to, so no worries. And at the end of the day, what can also happen is, let's say you do apply for American Amicable, for example, or even let's say Prosperity's return of premium, and they're not approved. Well, you gave them a high price. So now if you have to switch gears to Great Western, you're going to be a hero. You know what? I've actually found a company where they're going to give you more insurance for that same amount of money. So now you still got the same payment, but now you're giving them more insurance. You just became a hero by doing it this way. So the answer is no. If they're taking 30 medications, no way. I am not just sending them to guaranteed issue. I'm sending them the guarantee. Honestly, the only time I'm sending people to guaranteed issue and throughout my career is when they're HIV positive, or they have cancer. They have current cancer. Literally, those are the only two conditions where I send the clients to guaranteed issue. Literally. It looks like Michelle's got another question. Go ahead and fire away, Michelle. Unmute yourself.
If they have any health problems in the last 2 years, they've had a heart attack, they've had COVID, they've got whatever, would you automatically go to a graded or a GI?
It depends on what it is. So
if it's a heart attack or stroke.
Well, that's in the question. So here's the one thing you should know by now. Your leading carrier, you should have been reading the questions on the application over and over. And if you guys want an easy way to get the questions that are on the carrier's actual application, all you've got to do is give them a call and tell them, hey, can you email me a paper application? Or a lot of them have it on the website. I think with American Amicable, you can actually download it right off the website. The trick is to know the questions. It depends on what the health condition is. That's why the insurance toolkit software is so nice, because you can put in, if they tell you, well, you know, I was diagnosed with something 3 years ago, you can put it into the insurance toolkit and it'll tell you which carriers view it in what ways. No, a lot of conditions, you can still give them first aid coverage. Now, if they had a heart attack or stroke within the past 2 years, there's no company that's going to give them first aid coverage that I know of. And if I'm wrong, please, if you guys know of someone that will, let me know. Anybody else? Anybody have anything to add to this or any questions, please? Very good. Guys, I hope you all got something out of this today. I'm leaving you with 2 quotes. One of them, the one on the left, hard work plus sacrifice equals reward. You know, that's what I always say. That's your Doug Massi quote. And then I love this. The speed of your success is limited only by your dedication and what you're willing to sacrifice. When I read that, you know what that tells me for our business? The harder you work on learning, on preparing, first of all, for your first day, and the harder you work, the more dials, the more time you spend on the phone learning, the sooner you're going to get this. It really comes down to sacrifice. You know, at the end of the day, we all have to sacrifice something for this. Peter, did you have, I know you were on the call. I'm not even sure if you're still on here. Did you have something you wanted to add or a question that you wanted to ask?
No, Doug, I came back. I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome home.
Yeah. Earlier, I just want to make a point that, you know, I've been working with you for a while, but I was always grappling with the cheapest price versus the one that's going to stick on the books. And I've now come to a conclusion after a while that it's best to have even the higher price as long as they're going to stick on the book. So I learned my lesson, and I'm still learning. So
excellent.
I just want to highlight that.
That's good. That's good.
Forward.
Thank you. And yeah, so Peter's been doing this for a while. He's been with me for it's been a couple of years now. And so, yeah, guys, it's easy. You see the price for some of these. You'll see a client where you can get them, you know, for example, Mutual of Omaha, and Mutual of Omaha doesn't do true Social Security billing. Guess what? Your client who has who receives their Social Security money on the 3rd in December, Mutual of Omaha is not even going to draft it till the following week. So you're going to have clients falling off the books if you've sold them with that carrier, or if you didn't use the Social Security billing option. That's good stuff. All right, guys. Well, hey, I hope everybody has a really, really good week.